go through this document. We're not going to read everything because I have 2 more websites to show you, but they give a really great breakdown. This is their white paper. They give a really great breakdown of DAOs. So in recent years, the Decentralized Autonomous Organization, or DAOs, entities that use blockchains, digital assets, and related technologies to direct resources, coordinate activities, and make decisions have experienced explosive growth. According to the analytics service Deep DAO, in 2021, the total value of DAO treasury surged 40-fold, from 400 million to $16 billion. I want you guys to stop right there. How many people, and I can't see let me see if I can see it. Let me see if I can go back to it. Let me know in the chat if you've ever heard of a DAO before. How many people have heard of DAOs? And I guess I should say outside of our classroom, because I think we may have talked about it from time to time. But how many people have heard of DAOs? Okay, we have Rascal Ray. He said he's heard of DAOs. Not outside of the class. Exactly, Jennifer. Exactly, Mama August. Not outside of this class. You don't hear this being discussed. Exactly, Maggie with the bag, money bags, Maggie. You don't really hear this being discussed in the Black community at all. And yet they multiplied it by 40-fold from 400 million to $16 billion. And that's in 2021. We're already in 2025, about to be in 2026. And the number of DAO participants increased 130 times from 13,000 to 1.6 million. And how many of those 1.6 million participants, are Black founders, are Black participants? Probably not that many. So this is why we're talking about this tonight. Let me see if I can scroll down. Every time I do that, I'm always marking it up. Let me see if I can stop with the marking, and then maybe, there we go. I can just scroll up. There we go. Okay, so now let's go ahead and start learning about what a DAO is. So decentralized autonomous organizations, again, are entities that leverage blockchains, digital assets, and related technologies to deploy resources, coordinate activities, and make decisions. DAOs attempt to decentralize the operation of firms and other collective entities by making them functional and financial information transparent, and empowering token holding members to propose, vote on, or enact changes. So first thing is decentralized. What is that word decentralized? We've been talking about centralized, decentralized. Well, we know centralized when it comes to the banking system, if we're looking at the financial institution, would be a bank, because they have your money, right? You just can't, if you wanted, $5,000 today, you actually have to wait. You can't go to the bank right now. It's $750 where I am. And so you don't have access to your $5,000. You have to wait until 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 when they open up, and hopefully they'll give it to you. Sometimes they're giving people a hard time who are asking for $5,000 or more, right? Because they really don't have a lot of money on cash. But the whole thing with centralized is that another entity has access to, your assets. Okay, so decentralized is something that we want to have access to. That's what we say in a monetary or financial way of thinking. But when it comes to making decisions in a company, most corporate America is centralized decisions, right? They don't call you into the board meeting to ask, if they want to sell the company before they lay off, 13,000, 15,000 people, do they? No, they're making centralized decisions without your input. And you are technically a stakeholder because you work there, So one thing that I love about DAOs, and we'll get into the pros and the cons as well shortly, but DAOs actually is where you are actually a participant. You have a voice. Everyone has a vote. Token holding members, that's the key thing. You have to own the token. But once you own the token, most have one vote per token or something like that. It just depends. You have to read all the governance rules. But once you're a token holding member, you get to propose, vote on, and enact changes. So just to let you know, is actually a part of the Cosmos system. And I was actually a token holding member. And so in order for me to be rewarded, right, I had to make sure that I always participated. And anytime they had a vote, or anytime they had a change, I had to look at it and cast my vote, yes or no. Also, I could contribute, to the board as well. If I say I didn't work for Cosmos, so I never contributed. But, if I did work for them, if I knew something that external that could affect them, I could say, hey, this new Clarity Act is coming out and it affects da 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 da. I think Cosmos should do X, Y, Z. I could propose something like that. And then the community of token holding members can either approve it, or reject it. Also, too, another person could come in and say, well, yeah, I understand that. But from my point of view, it's this, it's another ABC, not XYZ. They can have an opposing view and they can tell you why they voted against my decision. And I actually like that as a token holder member because they had so many of them and we all have busy lives. The first thing you're going to see on your, on that platform, right, or that app, you're going to see, maybe 90% of people said yes and 10% of people said no. I'm not a person who just likes to follow everyone. So I'm always kind of like, why did the 10% say no? So I always went to go read those opposing views. But in most cases, I went with yes because it just made more sense. But that is one of the powers, of DAO, or the benefits of DAOs. So DAOs have recently experienced, I already spoke about all of that, so I'm not going to read that. Okay, so a couple other things I wanted to talk about, which is on the right side here. DAO is a general term covering a range of organizational structures and applications. They have identified 9 categories of DAOs based on their primary objective, which they divided it out, you'll see it soon, between generative, associative, or ad hoc, and primary means of achieving that objective activity. Value transfer is social. While traditional corporate governance relies on management and formal legal structures, like LLCs, all of those structures there, DAOs attempt to operate in a decentralized fashion, typically running on public, permissionless blockchains with rules, encoded like smart contracts, right? Open source software protocols and enforced by smart contracts. So that is what this is. And if you haven't noticed, we are moving into a world where they don't really want corporate America like that. A lot of CEOs have been quitting since 2020. A lot of these CEOs have been stepping down even just recently. They're all getting in trouble all of a sudden. They're really trying to push DAOs. You just see $16 billion worth of DAOs now. They want more participants. They want all of humanity, 8 billion people involved in the decision-making process. They don't want people at the top anymore. They want, we're all supposed to be moving to, like I told you all earlier, community, an organization. We're all moving to this one world type of way of life. We're all supposed to be united, one. There's no need for someone at the top of all these 50 million companies out here to tell us all what to do, right? So this is where we're headed. So pretty much like I stated earlier, like you've seen with the Fortune 500 companies, or maybe even some governments or religious institutions, they pretty much were the sole decision makers to govern the resources, territories, and communities, right? And they give you some examples on how they did that. But we're trying to get away from centralization, and they're telling you the cons about it. They said, yet centralization is not without its cost. With a small minority in charge, centralized entities tend to make decisions opaquely and consolidate power at the top. So another phrase you're going to keep hearing is that they want to level the playing field, even the playing field for this next iteration, right, of life. For this next stage that we're headed into, that's what they want to do. They said the overheads of centralized management can be considerable. Moreover, centralized governments may overemphasize narrow goals, like maximizing shareholder profits. And we see this time and time again. people are not getting laid off due to AI. Let's just stop, the lies, right? We haven't seen any AI come and replace any of these people. At the end of the day, the entire world is really strained right now with their economies. Everybody's doing terrible. So they're just going to get rid of people in the name of AI. But really, it's because they have to maximize shareholder profits. That's always been the end game, period. And so what's the best way to do it? At this time, the best way to do it is to lay off people, because you're going to be saving money. Now, we will be seeing AI come in next year and the following years, subsequent years, no doubt. But a lot of these companies are not telling the truth. They're not doing as well as they're saying they are, right? And so they're lying in these, the numbers that they're putting out there. And they have to, they really answer to the shareholders. So they're saying, recognizing the limitations of centralized government, internet pioneers, I love that y'all were pioneers, use open protocols and standards to empower participants around the world to collaborate on ambitious projects. And this is the beauty of this, open source world that we're headed into. You don't have to get all these permissions anymore. And this is one thing I just want to say as well, even for our second conversation tonight, is this is great for the Black community, because we have been locked out far too long. They always put so many parameters in place that we can't adhere to, or it will take a little bit longer to adhere to, or a level to reach, financially, economically, and it takes years. And then by the time we get there, they'll switch it up again, right? They'll add on additional barrier, it just keeps changing. And so this time, while everything is open, this is why I'm so upset right now that everyone's minds are just diverted towards celebrity this and sports this and gossip that. Who cares? Right now, while everything is open source and free, we can't always say it's forever going to be free. They may start charging you credits that's going to come out of your UBI later. I don't know. But what I'm saying is right now, we need to take advantage of it. This is the time to be rocking with this and use it for our advantage. So techniques of social production, utilize open source software, online collaboration. And where I was going with that, we can talk with people all over the world. You can create a DAO today with someone who has the exact same thought process as you, or who align with what the theme is of your DAO, in Germany, in Jamaica, and where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where. So it's so cool. Utilize open source software, online collaboration tools, and open interfaces played a key role in the development of the internet. So I'm not going to read into all that, but let's go back up to the top, and then I have some things over here. So DAOs enable communities to work collaboratively towards achieving shared goals. DAOs aspire to operate without conventional, centralized intermediaries. We don't need all these different permissions, right? Or institutional structures for functions such as the allocation of tasks and deployment of resources. Anyone who's ever worked in corporate America, you always know, it's bureaucratic, right? It's the bottleneck. Oh, wow, we're waiting on this team here, this division here, this person here. Sometimes it's just one person who's holding up everything, literally, and that's the bottleneck. Well, those days are over. So the allocation of tasks and deployment of resources, their open, composable structure make them simple to launch and customize with incentive structures. By locking agreements into automatically executing computer code, DAOs can foster rapid and transparent decision-making. That's another thing too. That's another reason why they want everything on a blockchain, so it can be trusted. But the same thing is with DAOs, is everything's going to be transparent because everything is recorded on the blockchain. Now you can trust what organization you're with. Think about all of these institutions that we've given to, like Red Cross, who have taken in, multi-millions, if not even in the 1 billion, I don't know, but hundreds of millions for sure of dollars of people's charitable funds. And yet they hardly do anything with it. Like we saw in Haiti, They barely built 5 houses, if that. It's like, okay, where is the money going? Where's the accountability? And then nothing ever happened with it. They had concerts, they had everybody donating, texting with their phones, back in the day. Whatever happened with the money? And so now everything is going to be transparent. Everyone's going to be held accountable. And if you have also been paying attention, even in this country, specifically this country, they know they're on their last leg of being able to get over on the American people, hustling us, making all this money off of our backs while we make nothing. Like even just recently, I know we talked about the 1010, liquidation event, but we have been having a series of liquidation events in the market since 1010. Just even recently with the whole dip of this Bitcoin, with the Bitcoin and now all this JP Morgan stuff, it's just a lot. It's just a lot of people hustling in the background, working, coordinating together against retail. And those days are coming to an end. And they know this. Once we start to get, the Clarity Act in place, and you're going to have to adhere to rules, and you're going to actually have to have a real case for whatever coin you have, even for your exchanges. Your crypto exchanges are going to have to be valid. You just can't be unaccountable for the money like FTX and, Binance did. You're going to have to show, So if you can't, you're out of here. So they know they're on their last leg. And sadly, the Clarity Act is not going to get passed or even be looked at until 2026. So it's like, that means, they can still keep dumping markets or, having liquidity hunts on retail. So just, y'all be careful out there. But legislation is coming. So we have that to look forward to.
Listen, we are stepping into a future that's already here. A future where robots, automation, artificial intelligence, and digital currency are changing everything. From how we work to how we bank, even how we build wealth. And if you're not preparing now, you're already behind. That's why I joined EMPIRENEURS DeFi. And that's why I'm inviting you to join us for the Wealth in DeFi Cohort. It's a 12-week experience designed specifically for professionals like us who want to build wealth, reskill for the future, and own our place in this new economy. Each week, we break down the tools and strategies that matter. Learn how to dollar cost average into blue chip crypto like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and XRP. Get hands-on with staking, yield farming, and tokenized assets. Not just theory, but actual platforms you can use. Use no-code AI tools to start your own business, automate your finances, or land that tech-forward job. Learn how to launch a Web3 brand, build a DAO, or tap into metaverse income streams. Whether you're trying to switch careers, launch something of your own, or just take control of your financial future, this cohort will equip you. But it doesn't stop there. When you join EMPIRENEURS DeFi, you join a community, a movement. As a member, you get access to online courses and webinars on crypto, AI, blockchain, and Web3. Members-only virtual movie nights that break down sci-fi and tech themes from a Black lens. Live events every second and fourth Sunday. Real conversations, real connections, monthly newsletters, and weekly insights to stay ahead of industry trends. Private networking opportunities with other Black professionals building in tech and finance. So the question isn't if you should prepare, the question is, are you ready to do it now? Because the future isn't waiting, and neither should you. The Wealth in DeFi cohort starts soon. It's only $99. Register now at Let's Build Together. Let's own the future.